Man, I had this weird knot in my stomach about our anniversary, and it didn't add up. Everything was planned down to the last detail, just like I always do. 20 years hitched calls for something big, right? I went all out, fancy dinner, top-shelf wine, a gift that'd knock your socks off. Still, something gnawed at me, this uneasy feeling I couldn't pin down. Our place screamed success, a big 2-story house tucked in a ritzy part of Savannah, Georgia. Neatly trimmed bushes lined the driveway, and a heavy walnut door gave off this understated rich vibe. Inside, soft lights glowed across an open layout where shiny oak floors stretched under high ceilings. A stone fireplace anchored the living room, cold for now but adding a touch of class. Pricey paintings hung on the walls, ones Vivian picked out over the years, her sharp taste clear in every frame. Tonight, the house smelled like seared ribeye, Merlot, and lavender candles. I'd spent hours setting up, a dining table draped in crisp white cloth, candles flickering, our best porcelain plates gleaming. A chilled bottle of aged wine sat in a bucket, beads of water dripping down its side. I even put a cluster of pink peonies, Vivian's favorite, right in the center. Everything was perfect, or at least it was meant to be. I fussed with the last touches before heading to the study, where a dusty box of old DVDs sat next to the projector. I'd been digging through closets for days to find them, wanting to surprise Vivian with a walk down memory lane, our wedding, our trip to Italy, those early days before life got hectic, before my job swallowed me whole, before time started tugging us apart in ways I barely noticed. Running a hand through my graying hair, I grinned a little, pulling out a DVD labeled Wedding 2004. 20 years, I muttered to myself. I could still picture Vivian in her ivory dress, her laugh like a melody, the way she held me tight during our first dance, whispering she'd never been so happy. I popped the disc in, dimmed the lights, and sank into the leather recliner as the projector hummed to life. The screen lit up with nostalgia, our wedding venue, a stunning ballroom in Austin, Texas, packed with family and friends. Vivian glowed beside me as we swapped vows, laughter bouncing around, champagne glasses clinking. I smiled, caught up in the warmth of it all. Then, everything flipped. The camera swung to the crowd for a moment, chatter and cheers filling the air, a whirl of motion and celebration. In the background, just a bit blurry but clear as day, there was Vivian. My Vivian, pressed against a wall, caught in a quiet moment with some guy I didn't know. They weren't just talking, she leaned in, her lips meeting him in a slow, deliberate kiss, not some quick peck but a deep, lingering one. I bolted upright, my wine glass tipping, red spilling across the rug. No way, that's not right. My heart slammed in my chest as I rewound the footage. There it was again, Vivian, laughing, her arms looped around the neck of a young waiter in a crisp white shirt and black vest, kissing him like it was nothing. My stomach dropped like I'd been sucker punched. I watched the brief, gut-wrenching betrayal play out in the grainy footage. The camera moved on, clueless to the bombshell it just caught, but I'd seen enough. My hands balled into fists, my pulse pounding like a freight train. For 20 years, I'd loved this woman, built a life with her, provided everything, and on our damn wedding day, she was kissing another man. I stared at the paused screen, my world spinning out of control. There's gotta be more to this, I whispered, desperation kicking in. I dove for the box of DVDs, tearing through them, honeymoon, Thanksgiving 2007, beach trip to Miami. I shoved each one into the player, eyes glued to the screen, hunting for any clue, any flicker of something off, a secret glance, a hidden touch, anything to show if this was a one-time slip or something bigger. But there was nothing, no sneaky moments, no stolen looks, just that one kiss. I let out a shaky breath, dragging a hand over my face, my body cold despite the cozy room. Was it just a dumb, drunken mistake, or was this a peek into something deeper, something I'd missed all along? My eyes drifted to the kitchen counter, where a sleek gift box sat. Inside was a key fob for a brand new Lexus LC convertible, one I'd spent weeks picking out, wanting to see Vivian's jaw drop when she saw it. Now, it felt like the dumbest move I'd ever made. I gripped the table's edge, a single thought burning in my gut, I need the truth. Then the front door clicked open. Vivian's heels tapped against the hardwood as she stepped inside, slipping off her coat with that easy confidence she always had. She wore a sharp navy dress that hugged her figure, her hair swept in loose curls, a hint of coral lipstick on her smirking lips. She paused in the entryway, her eyes scanning the room, the candlelit table, the soft jazz playing, the plated dinner. A slow, pleased grin spread across her face. "Wow, you pulled out all the stops this year," she said, her voice warm, almost playful, as she set her purse on the side table. She turned to me, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't read. Gotta say, I didn't expect this much effort. It's kinda charming. I forced a stiff smile. It's our 20th, you know. She glided toward the table, her fingers brushing the rim of a wine glass. 20 years feels like forever, doesn't it? She said with a soft laugh, then glanced at me, head tilted, watching me like I was a puzzle she was piecing together. So, she said, her tone light but deliberate, what's the big occasion? I blinked, my jaw clenching. What? She smiled, playing coy. I mean, this is amazing, the dinner, the candles, all of it. But what's got you going all out like this? Vivian leaned against the dining table, her fingers lightly drumming on the edge, her nails clicking softly. You know, Henry, she said, her voice smooth but teasing, you don't usually go this big with your surprises. She let the words hang in the air, her eyes narrowing with a playful glint, like she was waiting for me to spill the beans. She wasn't straight up asking for a gift, but I knew her game. She expected me to confirm the big reveal, something flashy to match the fancy setup. It almost made me chuckle, how slickly she played it, like she had it all figured out. I set my wine glass down slowly, choosing my words with care, when my phone vibrated on the table. I glanced at the screen, letting out a loud, ah, hell. Vivian's smile wavered just a bit. What's that? She asked. I shook my head, pushing my chair back and standing. It's the clinic. Emergency shift, they need me now. Her face flickered with annoyance before she covered it with a small pout. Henry, come on, it's our anniversary, she said, tilting her head. I shrugged, my voice flat. I know, I'm sorry. I'll make it up. She watched me, like she was trying to peel back my thoughts, then her expression brightened. Fine, but before you run off, she said, reaching into her handbag and pulling out a small, neatly wrapped box. At least open your gift. I hesitated, then took the box, unwrapping it with slow, deliberate motions. Inside, a watch caught the candlelight, looking pricey at first, silver-edged, sleek design. But when I picked it up, it felt wrong, too light, like a toy. My thumb grazed the face, and the cheap finish gave it away. The brand name was off by a letter, the ticking loud and clunky, a knockoff you'd find at a gas station for $10. I swallowed a bitter laugh, not because it was funny but because it hit me like a slap. This was what she thought of me. I'd spent weeks picking out her gift, ready to drop a fortune on something she'd love, and she hands me this junk? I snapped the box shut, forcing a tight grin. Thanks, Vivian. Really thoughtful. She beamed, missing the edge in my voice. I knew you'd like it. I shoved the box in my pocket, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door, disgust churning in my chest. I couldn't stay here, not with her, not with this feeling eating me alive. As I reached the door, she called out, "Don't stay too late at the clinic, and don't think I forgot about my gift." I froze for a second, then, without looking back, said, "Oh, don't worry. I haven't forgotten a thing." I walked out, leaving the candlelit dinner to fizzle out behind me. The break room at the clinic in Augusta, Georgia, felt colder than usual, the hum of fluorescent lights droning above. The smell of stale coffee hung in the air. My buddy Jasper Coleman, the head doc and my closest friend, leaned against the counter, sipping what had to be his fourth cup. He looked up as I walked in, his brows knitting together. "Damn, Henry, you look rough." I let out a dry chuckle, rubbing my forehead. "Feel worse?" Jasper nodded toward the coffee machine. "Want a cup, or are we skipping straight to bourbon?" I shook my head. "Neither. I need a name." He raised an eyebrow. "A name?" I let out a sharp breath, gripping the back of a chair before sinking into it. "A divorce lawyer." Jasper froze, setting his mug down and leaning forward. "What the hell are you talking about?" I looked him square in the eye, my voice steady. "I saw Vivian on our wedding DVD, kissing some guy." Jasper blinked, caught off guard. "Wait, what?" It was in the background, just a few seconds, but it was her. On our damn wedding day, Jasper locked lips with some waiter while I was right there. He let out a low whistle, scratching his jaw. "That's heavy, man." I snorted. "No kidding." Jasper leaned back, studying me. "And your first move is to become a lawyer?" I held his gaze, not budging. If she could do that on our wedding day, what else has she been up to? He sighed, shaking his head. Look, I get it, that's a gut punch, but you've been married 20 years. You've got kids, a whole life together. You really want to torch it over something that went down before your first year? My grip on the chair tightened, my knuckles whitening. So, what? I just act like I didn't see it. Jasper shrugged. I'm saying people mess up, Henry. Especially young, drunk, caught up in the moment. Maybe it was a one-time thing, maybe she hated herself for it right after. My jaw clenched. And if it wasn't? He let out a long breath. Then you gotta figure out if you're the guy who blows up everything over a few seconds of old footage. I gave a bitter laugh. It's not just the footage, Jasper. It's the fact that the day we swore to each other, she was off with someone else. I don't care if it was 20 years ago, it happened. Jasper rubbed his eyes, looking tired. All I'm saying is, don't do something you can't undo. I didn't answer, just stared at the cracked linoleum floor, my mind spinning like a tire stuck in mud. Jasper checked his watch, downed the last of his coffee, and got to his feet. Look, Henry, just take a second to cool off before you do anything crazy, all right? I gotta check on a patient from surgery. We'll talk later. I nodded, barely feeling the pat on my shoulder as he headed out of the break room. The door didn't quite shut behind him, creaking open just a bit before someone else slipped inside. I glanced up. It was Curtis, the night shift custodian. Curtis wasn't much for chit-chat, but there he stood, arms folded, a sharp look in his eyes. You really gonna listen to that guy's advice? He said. I frowned, my patience thinning. Ain't really your concern, Curtis. He let out a rough laugh. Maybe you ought to make it your concern who you're taking pointers from. I squinted at him. What's that supposed to mean? Curtis pulled a chair over, flipped it backward, and sat, leaning on the backrest. Jasper Coleman, Mr. Big Shot Doctor, he said, exhaling slow. You ever notice how his office is locked tight after hours? Something twisted in my gut. Curtis gave me a pointed look. I've been cleaning this clinic, for years, Henry. I see things. I stayed quiet, waiting. Different women, nurses, sometimes patients' wives, sometimes both in the same week, he said. My stomach churned. Curtis tilted his head. So maybe don't take marriage tips from a guy who can't keep it together. I clenched my jaw. You sure about this? He gave a bitter chuckle. Damn sure. He leaned in a bit. I ain't saying your wife's perfect. Maybe she messed up once, maybe more, maybe she's been playing you for years, maybe not. But that guy? He jerked a thumb toward the door Jasper had left through. He's got no right preaching forgiveness. Curtis grabbed his mop and stood. You're a sharp fella, Henry. Don't let him make a fool of you. Then he was gone. No way was I gonna let anyone play me for a sucker. I knew what I had to do. I started tailing Vivian. It was a Wednesday morning, and she'd stopped at a coffee shop in downtown Savannah for her usual cappuccino. I parked across the street, watching from my truck. The barista, some kid in his late 20s, flashed a grin before she even got to the counter. Vivian leaned forward, tilting her head, her smile a touch too warm. I cracked my knuckles, watching. She laughed at something he said, something that didn't seem all that clever, then reached out and brushed his arm. It was a small gesture, but too familiar for a married woman. The barista scribbled something on her cup before handing it over. Vivian stepped outside, sipped her drink, and glanced at the cup, a pleased little smile curling her lips. I waited till she drove off, then went inside and ordered a plain coffee. At the counter, I peeked at the cup she'd gotten. You've got a killer smile, it read. My stomach nodded. That evening, I followed Vivian to her weekly dinner with her friend Lila at Lila's place. It was supposed to be a girls' night, but Lila's husband, Floyd, was there too. I sat in my truck outside their house in a quiet Athens, Georgia, neighborhood, the blinds cracked just enough to see into the cozy dining room. At first, it was nothing, Vivian, Lila, and Floyd chatting over dinner. Then I noticed it. Vivian angled herself toward Floyd, even when Lila was talking, laughing too hard at his lame jokes, her fingers tracing the stem of her wine glass, slow and deliberate. Floyd didn't bite, to his credit, but Vivian was dangling the hook. The last straw came Friday afternoon. I trailed her to a fancy shop in downtown Augusta, where she was supposedly picking out a gift for our daughter. When she stepped out, a cop was writing her a parking ticket. I parked a few spots back, watching. Vivian didn't argue or look mad. Instead, she smiled, placed a hand on the officer's arm, a move I'd seen twice now, leaned in a bit too close. The cop, a guy in his 40s, laughed, shook his head, and tore the ticket up. Vivian's smile lit up. My grip on the steering wheel was so tight my hands ached. This wasn't about whether Vivian had cheated again. It was about proof, and I was gonna get it. That night, I sat in my home office, the laptop screen's glow casting shadows. I created a fake profile, a guy who didn't exist. I spent hours building him, Daniel Vance, 42, real estate mogul, into yachting, travel, and fine wine, divorced. I picked a stock photo of a polished guy in his 40s, then swapped in Curtis' face, the custodian. It was a slick move. Curtis wasn't online, no social media, untraceable. I used some AI tricks to tweak the image, making him a ghost nobody could pin down. By the time I was done, Daniel Vance was the kind of man women dream about. Now, I'd see if Vivian would bite. I sent her a message, not sure how she'd react. She took the bait fast. Within an hour, she'd accepted the friend request, and by midnight, we were chatting. It started light, small talk, where he's from, what he does he travel? I fed her what she wanted, self-made tycoon, loves the good life. Then, a few messages in, she dropped a bomb. She said she was a widow. I read it twice. Widow, not married, not separated, not even stuck in a rough patch. A widow. She spun a story about losing her husband years ago, grieving for ages, but now ready to move on. By the second day, Vivian was tossing flirty comments my way through the fake profile. By day 3, she was starting the chats herself. By the end of the week, she was spilling secrets no married woman should share with another guy. She talked about feeling alone, craving that spark again, missing the thrill of someone wanting her. I kept my replies careful, nudging her just enough to let her keep unraveling. At first, she danced around it with what-ifs, like, what if you met someone who made your heart race? Wouldn't it be wild to just walk away and start over? Then she stopped pretending. It's been years since I've felt desired. I think about you when I'm alone at night. I read those words, my gut twisting, but I stayed focused. I sat in the polished office of Gideon Walsh, one of the top divorce lawyers in Charleston, South Carolina. The place smelled like leather and wealth, with shelves packed with heavy law books and a fancy glass bottle of bourbon on the desk, untouched but screaming high class. Walsh, a sharp guy in his late 50s with graying hair and a tailored charcoal suit, had the air of someone who'd seen every kind of betrayal. He leaned back, fingers laced under his chin, listening as I spilled the whole story. We were kids when we tied the knot, I started, rubbing my palms together. Medical school, broke as hell, living in a cramped studio in Mobile, Alabama. I worked brutal hours. Walsh nodded, his face giving nothing away. I let out a heavy breath, the weight of 20 years pressing on me. Then she quit med school, said it wasn't her thing, and wanted to focus on raising a family. I was fine with it. Busted my tail so she didn't have to stress, built a career, got us a nice house, covered everything. Cars, trips, private schools for our girls. I gave a bitter laugh. And now, here we are. Walsh studied me for a second before speaking. You say assets split 50-50? I nodded. Everything, house, savings, retirement. On paper, she gets half. He let out a slow breath, his eyes hardening. That's how it works. I scoffed. Seems like the law's pretty damn kind to folks who don't earn it. Walsh tapped a pen on his desk. You want her to walk away empty-handed? It wasn't really a question. I met his gaze. I want what's right. He leaned forward, his voice steady. Right's a tough sell in divorce court, Henry. The system doesn't care you pulled 16-hour shifts while she stayed home, doesn't care she never made a dime. 20 years as your wife? That gives her half. Unless, I leaned in. Unless what? He folded his hands. Unless we prove misconduct, infidelity, specifically. My jaw tightened. I've got messages, I said. Set up a fake profile, baited her, and she bit. Walsh raised an eyebrow. Clever, but it won't stand up. She could claim entrapment. We need hard proof, photos, video, something real showing she's stepping out, not just chatting online. I exhaled hard, hoping the texts would have been enough. So, I gotta catch her red-handed? Walsh nodded. Something she can't talk her way out of. I ran a hand through my hair, mind racing. Okay, what else? He tapped his fingers. We dig for leverage, hidden spending, gambling, secret accounts, anything shady. I shook my head. Nothing I know of. He smirked. Then find out. Cheaters usually lie about more than just love. Check bank statements, phone records, anything we can use. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope. I had a plan. And if I get proof? Walsh's smirk grew. Then we make sure she gets nothing. By the second week of messaging, Vivian was dropping hints about meeting up. She told Daniel Vance she wanted to see him in person. I suggested a low-key spot, a hotel, somewhere private. She didn't even pause, just said she couldn't wait. I sat in my truck outside the Magnolia Inn in Savannah, hands steady on the wheel. I wasn't nervous, I wasn't doubting myself. In the passenger seat, Curtis shifted, tugging at the jacket I'd lent him, a bit too sharp for a custodian. Still not sure about this, man, he muttered, glancing at the watch I'd given him for the night, a flashy Tag Heuer. I shot him a look. You said you'd help. This is it. Curtis rubbed his buzzed head, sighing. Yeah, but playing your wife? That ain't in my contract. I smirked. You're not charming her, Curtis. You're just letting her think she's about to meet a guy worth throwing me over for. He gave a dry laugh. Oh, that makes it so much better. I pulled a small earpiece from the console and handed it to him. I'll be in your ear the whole time. Just do what I say. Curtis stared at it, muttered something, then took it, shaking his head. Should have asked for overtime. I booked room 403 at the Magnolia Inn, a suite with big windows and soft amber lighting. A tiny camera, hidden in a fake smoke detector on the dresser, was set to catch everything. A voice-activated recorder sat inside a lamp. It was all ready. All we had to do was wait. Vivian showed up 10 minutes early. Watching the security feed on my laptop from a room down the hall, I saw how sure of herself she looked, stepping into the suite like she'd done this before. She wore a deep teal silk robe, tied just loose enough to hint at what was underneath. She checked herself in the mirror, smoothed her hair, adjusted her earrings, then poured a glass of wine from the bottle I'd left. When the knock came, she set the glass down, a smile playing on her lips, and glided to the door. She opened it, expecting Daniel Vance. Instead, she saw Curtis. For a split second, her face froze, confusion, then disappointment, then something close to irritation. What in the hell is this? Vivian's voice caught like a knife. Curtis swallowed hard. Hey, darlin', you look even better up close. I winced in my earpiece. God, Curtis, really? Vivian crossed her arms, glaring. You're not Daniel Vance. Curtis smirked, stepping into the room and shutting the door. I go by a few names. Vivian took a step back, her posture stiff. I could see it on the security feed, she wasn't feeling the spark she'd had in her messages. Curtis, clean-shaven and dressed in a sharp suit with the Tag Heuer I'd lent him, still didn't pull off the effortless charm of Daniel Vance. He wasn't smooth enough, and Vivian could sense it. Her eyes narrowed. Say something in Italian. Curtis blinked. Ciao. I smacked my forehead. Vivian's expression darkened. You're a fake. Curtis tried to salvage it, stepping closer. Come on, baby, you wanted a night to remember, right? She flinched, pulling away. Get out. Her voice was sharp, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. Curtis hesitated. Wait, let's just talk, get out. She wasn't budging. He turned and bolted, the door clicking shut behind him. I let out a breath, watching the feed. She stopped. She didn't go through with it. But it wasn't because she'd had some moral awakening. She just didn't think Curtis was worth it. If Daniel had been real, the polished guy she'd pictured, she'd have jumped in without a second thought. That hit me like a brick. She wasn't loyal, she was just picky. My jaw tightened as I watched her grab her phone and start dialing. My pulse spiked. Curtis's voice crackled in my earpiece. She's calling someone. My stomach sank. On the feed, Vivian held the phone to her ear. Jasper, I've got some time now. Magnolia Inn, you know the place. We've been here before. I'm waiting. My best friend, Jasper. It all clicked into place. I gripped the steering wheel, my eyes locked on Jasper's silver Audi pulling into the parking lot of the Magnolia Inn in Savannah, Georgia. My heart pounded as he stepped out, straightening his tie, checking his reflection in the car window. He wasn't sneaking, wasn't cautious, like he had nothing to hide. I clenched my jaw, my fingers curling tight around the wheel. So it was true. It wasn't just flirty texts or a one-time slip. Vivian had someone, and it was Jasper. I followed him, keeping my distance, down the quiet hallway outside room 403. The faint hum of voices and soft jazz from other suites drifted around me. I stood just out of sight, my breathing steady. The door to Vivian's room opened, and I heard her voice, warm, familiar, excited. "You're early," she said, followed by Jasper's low chuckle. "Couldn't stay away." The door clicked shut. I pressed myself against the wall, my pulse strangely calm. I'd expected to feel rage, but instead, there was just nothing. The tiny recorder in the lamp picked up every word. I listened. "God, Jasper, I was so nervous today," Vivian said. He laughed softly. "Nervous? You?" She sighed. "Henry's been off. He's looking at me different." My teeth gritted. Jasper's voice came through, smug. "You think he's onto us?" A pause. "No," Vivian said, "but sometimes I feel like he suspects something. He barely glanced at me when I left tonight." Jasper chuckled. "Maybe he's finally loosening his grip on you." Vivian laughed, soft and sharp. "God, wouldn't that be something? Henry letting me breathe for once." I heard the clink of ice in a glass as Jasper poured a drink. "You don't regret this, do you?" he asked. Vivian's voice was playful. "Regret you? The only thing I regret is not starting this sooner." I could hear her moving closer, her fingers brushing his shirt. Jasper's voice dropped. "What happens if he finds out?" She shushed him, her tone teasing. "We make sure he doesn't." Jasper laughed, his voice warm. "You know I've got us covered, right? I've messed up before, but Henry always bails me out. He's got my back." Vivian smirked. "Exactly. Even if he finds out, he won't do a thing. Taking you down would tank him too." I closed my eyes. They thought I was stuck, that I'd never exposed them because Jasper's career was tangled up with mine. They were dead wrong. Jasper's voice came again. "You're one of a kind, you know that?" Vivian's laugh was light, teasing. "I know." Their voices faded into rustling sounds, a soft gasp. I exhaled, pulled out my phone, and tapped a button. A small red light blinked, live feed streaming to every clinic group chat and every country club Vivian loved to flaunt herself at. Then I walked to the fire alarm and yanked it. Inside the suite, they didn't notice at first, too caught up. Vivian's gasp came through the feed. "What the hell?" Jasper muttered, half-dressed, heart pounding. "Damn it." The hotel intercom crackled. "Attention, guests, a fire has been reported on this floor. Please evacuate immediately." Vivian scrambled, her hands shaking as she grabbed her robe. Jasper tugged his shirt on, cursing under his breath. "We gotta move." The hallway outside turned into a mess, guests spilling out of rooms. I stood calmly, waiting. When Vivian and Jasper burst out of the room, breathless, wide-eyed, barely put together, I was ready. Vivian and Jasper saw me, and it was like their world hit a brick wall. Vivian froze, clutching her robe tight around herself, her face pale. Jasper stiffened, the color draining from his cheeks. I just smiled. "Evening, folks." Vivian's lips parted, but no words came out. Jasper's chest heaved, his eyes wide. "Henry, this ain't." I glanced at my phone, scrolling through the comments flooding the livestream. Everyone, colleagues, country club folks, knew the truth now. I paused the broadcast and played a recorded clip through the hotel's hallway speakers. Their voices echoed, Vivian's, saying, "The only thing I regret is not starting this sooner," and Jasper's, "He won't do a damn thing, even if he finds out. Taking me down takes him down too." Vivian's face went white as a sheet. Jasper's jaw locked tight. I watched them, and for the first time, I felt nothing, no love, no anger, just empty. Vivian yanked her robe tighter, her voice shaking. "Listen, Henry, I swear, this was a mistake. I don't love him. It was just a slip-up." I let out a sharp, bitter laugh, shaking my head. A mistake, huh? Was it a mistake when you planned to meet Daniel Vance? Her mouth snapped shut, her eyes darting. I tilted my head, daring her to lie. Come on, Vivian, tell me. She blinked fast, stammering. I don't know what you're talking about. I gave another dry chuckle, pulling up the messages on my phone. You called me your dream guy, said you couldn't wait to be in my arms, and said you were a widow. Her face crumpled, no words left. Jasper exhaled, shaking his head. Jesus, Vivian, shut up. She spun on him, snapping, You're not helping. My jaw tightened. Oh, he's helping plenty. Vivian turned back to me, her voice cracking. Henry, please, I love you. You have to believe me. My stomach twisted at the nerve of it. Love me? I stepped closer, my voice low, cold. That's why you've been sneaking around with my best friend, lying to my face, flirting with strangers online? Tears welled in her eyes. It wasn't real. I was lonely, Henry. You were always working, always distracted. I just needed to feel wanted. I laughed, a real one this time, but it was hollow. Needed to feel wanted? I leaned in, my voice dropping to a razor's edge. Did you feel wanted when you got cozy with him? Vivian gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Jasper, sensing the heat turning on him, squared his shoulders, his tone icy. All right, enough, Henry. You're pissed, I get it, but this ain't a courtroom. Want to end your marriage? Fine. Keep me out of it. I turned to him, slow, deliberate. You think you just walk away clean? Jasper scoffed, crossing his arms. Yeah, I do. And if you've got any sense, you'll keep this between you and her. My brows lifted. Or what? His face hardened. Or I'll have you out of a job by Monday. Silence hit like a brick. Vivian's eyes widened, darting between us. I stood still, the hallway feeling tighter, darker. Jasper stepped forward, his confidence oozing back. You think you can drag this mess to court and not get burned? I sign your checks, Henry. You really want to blow up your life over this? He kept pushing. You're not gonna do a damn thing. You'll keep quiet, handle your divorce like a man, and leave my name out of it. Vivian swallowed hard, her head whipping between us. Jasper, stop. I moved fast, my fist connecting with his jaw, a clean, hard crack. He stumbled back, slamming into the wall, clutching his face, blood seeping from his lip. Son of a, Vivian gasped, her hands covering her mouth. I stepped forward, looming over him as he groaned. My voice was low, steady, sharp. You're the one who should be worried. Jasper laughed, bitter, wiping his mouth. About what? My smile was ice cold. About all the times I fixed your screw-ups in surgery, covered for you when you botched procedures, explained how to run a damn clinic. About the medical board I'm calling first thing tomorrow. His face paled. You wouldn't. I tilted my head. Wanna bet? Vivian's voice broke through, desperate. Henry, please, don't ruin everything. I laughed under my breath. You already did that. I turned and walked away, leaving them in the mess they'd made. Back in Charleston, South Carolina, I sat in Gideon Walsh's office, the weight of 20 years heavy in my chest. The divorce papers sat on the desk, clean and final, the end of everything. Gideon watched me, his voice calm. Once you sign, we'll file. She'll be served by next week. I hesitated, not because I doubted myself, but because this was real. No turning back. My pen hovered, then I took a breath and signed. Done. But I wasn't stopping at Vivian. Jasper had played his part, and I wasn't letting him skate. I'd put together a file, years of ignored patient complaints, botched procedures, negligence reports he'd dodged because of me. I walked into the clinic director's office in Savannah and dropped it on his desk. This should have been dealt with years ago, I said, my voice cool. 3 days later, the investigation kicked off. Jasper was suspended, his career hanging by a thread. Me? I had nothing left to lose. I barely had time to catch my breath before my daughters, Nora and Hazel, showed up at my house. I knew this was coming. Vivian must have gotten to them first, spinning her side of the story. Nora, my oldest, takes after me, practical, level-headed, loyal to a fault. Hazel, the youngest, is more like Vivian, dreamy, emotional, quick to excuse things that don't deserve it. The second they walked into my house I felt the split between them before they even opened their mouths. Nora stood with her arms crossed, jaw tight, ready for a fight. Hazel looked nervous, fidgeting, like she wasn't sure where to stand. "Mom told us what's going on," Nora said, cutting straight to it. I nodded, leaning back in my chair. Figured she would. Hazel sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Dad, she's fallen apart. This is really hitting her hard." My jaw tightened. "Good. She ought to feel it." Hazel shot me a look. "Come on, you're really gonna throw it all away over one screw-up?" Nora's head whipped toward her sister. "One screw-up?" Hazel shifted, uneasy. "Okay, it was bad, I get it, but Dad, you were never around." She was lonely. Something twisted in my chest, sharp and raw. Hazel's voice softened. "You were always at the clinic, always putting work first. Maybe she needed something you weren't giving her." Nora scoffed, her arms tightening. "Are you kidding me? She had everything. He gave her everything." Hazel hesitated, then muttered, "It's not just about money, Nora." Nora's eyes flared. "You think it was just money? He was there every birthday, every Christmas, making sure we never wanted for anything. Just 'cause he was working doesn't mean he was a bad husband." Hazel rubbed her temples, frustrated. "I'm just saying, relationships aren't cut and dry. Maybe if you knew what it's like to be with someone for years and feel invisible." Nora cut her off. "So you're saying it's fine to cheat?" Hazel's face twisted. "No, I'm saying I get why it happened." I finally spoke, my voice low but firm. "Do you, Hazel?" She looked at me, caught off guard. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "If you get married someday, and your husband does what your mom did, you're gonna just nod and say you understand?" Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Nora turned to her, realization dawning. "Oh my God, you're defending this because you've done it." Hazel's face went pale. Nora laughed, disbelieving. "Wow, no wonder you think it's no big deal." Hazel's shoulders stiffened. "It's not like that." Nora rolled her eyes. "Sure it isn't." Hazel's voice sharpened. "Look, people mess up, okay? Don't make them monsters." Nora shook her head, muttering, "You sound just like Mom." Hazel looked away, and the room went quiet, heavy. I stood, breaking the silence. "I'm filing for divorce." "That's not changing." Hazel's eyes shot up. "You don't have to do this." I exhaled, steady. "Yeah, I do." She hesitated, then grabbed her jacket and walked out without another word. Nora watched her go, shaking her head. "She'll come around, or she won't. That's on her." I let out a long breath, and for the first time in ages, I felt a weight lift off my chest. The clinic boardroom in Savannah, Georgia, was cold, all steel and glass, a place where careers lived or died. I sat across from a panel of senior doctors and administrators, a thick file laid out in front of them. Across from me, Jasper Coleman squirmed in his chair, sweat beading on his forehead, his usual cocky grin long gone. The clinic director, Dr. Harlan Voss, cleared his throat. "Dr. Caldwell, you filed a formal complaint against Dr. Coleman, alleging repeated negligence and malpractice. Do you have proof?" I nodded, calm as ever. "Yes, sir. I've got records of ignored patient complaints, misdiagnoses, and surgical mistakes either buried or brushed off under his watch." Murmurs rippled across the table. One board member, Dr. Sanjay Rao, frowned. "Dr. Caldwell, why raise this now?" I met his eyes. "Because I covered for him for years. I made excuses, fixed his messes, smoothed things over, thinking I was protecting the clinic." I exhaled. I was wrong. Jasper gritted his teeth. "This is a damn smear campaign." I didn't even glance at him, just slid a USB drive across the table. Full documentation there. The board passed around the files, skimming reports, patient complaints, evidence piling up. Jasper shook his head. "This is nonsense. If Caldwell had an issue with how I ran things, why wait till now?" I turned to him, my voice steady. "Because you were my friend. I didn't want to see it, didn't want to believe it. But when you threatened my job to cover your own ass, I realized if you'd do that to me, God knows what you'd do to a patient." Jasper's face was drained of color. Dr. Voss leaned forward. "Dr. Coleman, do you have a defense?" Jasper opened his mouth, then shut it. He knew it was over. Voss set the file down, his voice firm. Dr. Coleman, effective immediately, you're on indefinite suspension. This will go to the Medical Ethics Committee for review, and your license may be revoked. Jasper froze. I let out a small, satisfied breath. 2 weeks later, I was back in that same boardroom, but this time, I wasn't tearing someone down. Dr. Voss folded his hands. Dr. Caldwell, given your proven leadership and commitment to patient care, the board unanimously offers you the role of chief of medicine. A murmur went through the room. I blinked. Sorry, what? Voss smiled. The clinic needs someone with your integrity right now. I paused, then nodded. I'll take it. Jasper was out, and I'd stepped into his place. The divorce dragged on, a slow, ugly fight, but I played it smart. I brought everything, recordings of Vivian's conversations, the hotel video, her flirty messages to Daniel Vance. It was enough. My lawyer, Gideon Walsh, laid it out clean. Mr. Caldwell has been the sole provider for this family for over 20 years, funding their daughter's education, their home, their entire lifestyle. The judge's ruling hit like a gavel on stone. Gideon Walsh had laid it all out. Mrs. Caldwell, despite every opportunity, contributed nothing financially and used her dependents as a shield while carrying on multiple affairs. Vivian's lawyer tried to push back, arguing her infidelity wasn't financial misconduct, but the proof was ironclad: recordings, videos, those messages to Daniel Vance. The judge's final words stuck with me: this court finds Mrs. Caldwell's claims for financial support baseless. Assets will be awarded to Mr. Caldwell. Vivian looked like she'd been gut-punched. No alimony, no house, no nothing. Just as I figured, she turned to Hazel. I didn't stop her. I knew what was coming. Vivian showed up at Hazel's apartment in Macon, Georgia, dragging a suitcase. Sweetie, I just need a place to crash for a bit, she said. Hazel shifted, uneasy. Mom, I want to, but, Vivian's stomach nodded. But what? Hazel bit her lip, hesitating. Evan doesn't want you here. Vivian froze. What? Hazel's voice wavered. I told him everything, the cheating, the divorce. He said if I let you stay, I'd just be falling into the same trap. Vivian started, stunned. So you're picking him over your own mother? Hazel winced. Mom, I've got nowhere else to go either. If I let you in, I would lose my place too. Vivian's mouth went dry. She'd always banked on Hazel being her safety net, but now the door was closing, literally. Hazel mumbled, I'm sorry, and shut it. Vivian stood there, suitcase in hand, alone for the first time, with no one to blame but herself. I stood in the driveway of my house staring at the sleek Lexus LC convertible I'd planned to give Vivian for our anniversary. It still smelled brand new, untouched, like a life that never happened. I ran a hand over the hood, exhaling. So this was supposed to be Mom's? I turned to see Nora standing there, arms crossed, her face a mix of surprise and something warmer, maybe appreciation. I nodded. Yeah, but she didn't earn it. Nora let out a soft laugh, shaking her head. And I do? I smiled. You had my back, Nora. You didn't make excuses for her, you saw things clear. After all this, I want you to have it. Her eyes softened, but she played it cool. I mean, I'm not gonna turn down Alexis. I chuckled, tossing her the keys. Then it's yours. She caught them with a grin. Thanks, Dad. Seriously. As she slid into the driver's seat and pulled out, a quiet satisfaction settled in my chest. Something good had finally come out of this mess. A few weeks later, I adjusted my tie, walking through the clinic halls in Savannah. I spotted Curtis by the maintenance closet, checking his schedule. He'd been an unexpected ally through it all, and I owed him. I cleared my throat. Curtis. He glanced up, eyes narrowing, still wary after everything. Dr. Caldwell. I smirked. Still weird hearing that from you. He shrugged. Figured you'd be too busy for us maintenance folks now that you're chief of medicine. I crossed my arms. You're not maintenance anymore. He blinked. Come again? I pulled a folded contract from my pocket. I need someone solid to run operations, someone who gets how this place works, who spots when things are off. Talk to the board, there's a facilities manager spot open. Better pay, benefits, and an office that ain't a broom closet. Curtis took the paper, scanning it, then let out a low whistle. Damn. I grinned. That's thank you, Dr. Caldwell, to you. He chuckled, shaking his head. You for real? I nodded. You stepped up when I needed it, no questions asked. You've got a knack for reading people, Curtis. This place needs that. He rubbed his neck, exhaling. Didn't think today was gonna be a promotion day. I laughed. Take the job. You've earned it. Time rolled on. One slow afternoon at the clinic, I got a call, a woman in the ER with a fractured wrist, possible concussion. I sighed, rubbing my forehead. All right, I'll handle it. I walked into the exam room, flipping through the chart. Ms. Marwood, I'm Dr. Cal, my words caught as I looked up. There, on the exam table, was Ivy Marwood. From years ago, before Vivian, before everything. She still had those hazel eyes, sharp with smarts, and that natural beauty that didn't need any fuss. Even with an ice pack on her wrist and a faint bruise on her temple, she had that same steady presence. Her eyes widened. Henry Caldwell? I let out a soft chuckle. Ivy Marwood. Never thought I'd see you in my ER. She smirked, wincing as she shifted her arm. Didn't plan on needing one, but here I am. I crossed my arms, tilting my head. Last time I saw you, you were ditching med school to go see the world. She laughed, a little sheepish. Yeah, well, the world fights back. Slipped on a wet sidewalk outside my hotel. I nodded at her wrist. Let's take a look. As I checked her injury, something shifted between us, a spark that hadn't quite died. So, she said, Chief of Medicine now? Look at you, big shot. I smiled, shaking my head. You always said I was too driven for my own good. Her smirk grew. And now you've got the whole clinic under your thumb. I met her gaze. What about you? Still charming folks wherever you go? She laughed, light and warm. Depends. Are you putting your heart on the line again? I paused, then smirked. Maybe. Her eyes held mine, something heavy but unspoken hanging there, a second chance, maybe a new start. I finished wrapping her wrist, my fingers lingering just a moment. She raised a brow. If you're trying to flirt, you owe me dinner first. I grinned. That a request? She smirked back. Damn right. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Maybe life still had some surprises up its sleeve.